You've probably seen a ropeway before. Whether you've been on one on a ski trip, used one to access a tourist destination, or used one for a daily commute to work, ropeways are everywhere, even where you least expect them. But not many people ever ask themselves how they work. And today, I'll be answering that exact question. Now, there are so many different types of ropeway to discuss. Your standard gondola lift, for example, is quite a bit different to a funicular. Today, I'll be going into detail primarily into detachable lifts, with videos on other types to follow in future. This especially concerns rail-mounted ropeways, which won't be referred to in this video as they differ quite a bit from the other types. Ropeways are called such because they, unsurprisingly, consist of a vehicle connected to a rope or multiple ropes in some cases. To connect the vehicle properly, a device called a clamp, or grip, is used. This locks the rope into position while allowing a somewhat flexible movement of the carrier attached. A station will be located at either end of a ropeway, usually one at the bottom and one at the top. Several lifts also have stations in between the bottom and top, and they can range from a simple deboarding ramp to their own full-on building. But for now, we'll focus on lifts with a single section, then move on to larger lifts later on in the series. At each station, the rope coming from the opposite end must be turned 180 degrees to head back to it. This is done through a large pulley called a bull wheel. Normally, the bull wheel at one end will be powered by a motor, and the one at the other end tensions so that the rope stays as tight as possible. Along the line, in between stations, you'll find pylons. These hold the rope above the ground whilst also allowing the clamps of the vehicles to pass over them. This video will be primarily focused on these clamps and the main two variants that they come in, fixed and detachable. A fixed clamp is, as the name suggests, a clamp which is permanently fixed to the rope. This means that parts of the clamp will have to be entirely removed in order to take the vehicle off of the rope. A detachable clamp, on the other hand, can separate from the rope thanks to a lever mechanism. This means that the vehicle can be moved by other systems, such as chain or tires. Both types of clamp are usually limited to 3 directions of movement when connected to rope. They can pass above the wheels on pylons, below them, or they can make an inward turn. Outward turns are not normally possible as the rope would crush against the wheel. However, there are a couple systems where this has been done, for example by slightly inclining wheels above the rope or by making multiple inwards turns until the rope is heading in the right direction. Now, the big question, how does a detachable clamp really work? The overall concept is quite simple. Let's start with a lever with a wheel on one end and a space for the rope to fit into on the other. By setting a point to pivot around, we can push down on the wheel to lift the other end upward. In front of this part, we'll add a second point to wrap around the rope to ensure that it cannot escape when the clamp is closed. Now, when we push on the wheel, a larger gap opens up and the rope will have enough space to escape. Finally, let's add a spring so that the clamp will close back on its own after being pushed. Since the spring wants to extend and pushing the wheel down contracts the spring, it will automatically go back to its original closed position when the wheel is released. Some extra parts are useful, such as a friction pad, which allows the vehicle to move through the station by being pushed by tyres, some more guidance wheels, and of course the connection to the hanger which holds the vehicle. Here's the diagram in full. Starting with the clamp connected to the rope, it will enter the guidance wheels in the start of the station, keeping it in position. The wheel at the end of the lever will be pushed down so that the clamp opens and so that the rope has enough space to escape. Once the rope is out of the way, the clamp can close again and continue through the station. To show this off with better visuals than my terrible animation skills, here's a clip from the game Winter Resort Simulator, which pretty much sums up everything I've just mentioned. As the top wheel is pushed down, it pushes the lever, opening up a space for the rope to move away. In this example, we have a bistable clamp, which means that it stays open after detaching. However, it does close back again when it reattaches to the rope. When attaching to the rope, the same sequence pretty much plays in reverse. The lever is pushed down, the rope can enter through the gap, and then the clamp closes, locking the rope into place and attaching itself with enough frictions that the rope pulls it along. And that is pretty much everything to cover about the basics of ropeways. Of course, I've missed out lots, such as safety systems and door opening, but I'll leave that for a future video. With that said, thank you very much for watching.